All right, welcome everyone to the very last call. I don't remember which week we're on, but we have completed the 21 Laws of Leadership. So, yes, happy dance. That's fun because you can't unknow what you've learned, right? It's like once your awareness level is there, you can't unlearn it, right? And so that it's this continuation of learning now what leadership means in a practical way, right? So sometimes I feel like it's really helpful to talk about and process through like what leadership is, what it looks like, how it's modeled. And leadership, like every single person is a leader, regardless of at this point how big your Plexus team is. Because if you're a mom, you're a leader. If you have any friends whatsoever, you have influence. And so leadership ties into all the areas of life. And when you start to learn how to be a better leader, like in your Plexus business, you'll naturally just raise the lid in every area. So I would love to hear, for those of you who have read the chapter, what your insights were on chapter 21, the law of legacy. A leader's lasting value is measured by succession. So feel free to unmute, or if you have to, you can put it in the chat thread of something that you learned from this chapter. I'd love to hear.
Okay, I'll go.
Awesome. Hi, Jill.
Hey, I guess to me, and I've kind of related it to my day job a little bit, it's not so much of a system that you can implement and everything, but it's the type of people that you can bring up that can carry on if you're not there.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess, and I adapted that to then the Plexus business. You know, we all want that freedom at the end. And so I feel like, you know, building our teams so we have leaders on our team so our business can function without us for a week or 2 weeks, or they can continue to grow even if we're not there.
Exactly. So what are some things that you've done in your day job to raise up other leaders? Do you have anything specific that you've helped them learn or?
Well, I guess I try to let them be more, you know, try to find out what their goals are and try to help them achieve their goals. So it's not all about me and the way that I do things. It's things that they want to accomplish and how far they want to get in their career.
So helping figure out what they want and kind of drilling down into that has helped you raise up other leaders.
Right. Because my style is different. I mean, and what I do and what somebody else may do, that the goal is hopefully we'll all end up at the end point and do the things, you know, accomplish the same task, but maybe how we get there and what our strengths are different.
Mm-hmm. Love that. Love that. Esther, do you have something to add to that? Something you pulled out of the chapter that was meaningful to you?
Well, the chapter probably hit me differently than other people, just because it resonated pretty deeply about legacy, because my husband passed away about 1.5 years ago. And so I sat in the hospital with him, and we had a lot of talks about legacy and what he wanted his legacy to be, and that kind of thing. And interesting enough, just even thinking about it, just seeing how he has left a legacy even without, because he didn't have very much time. So he was in the hospital and then he was gone in 5 weeks. So there wasn't a whole lot of time between bringing him to the hospital and him passing away. So it's so true. Like, we never know when we have, right? So we need to live every day to the fullest and be intentional about doing that, I guess, is where I'm coming from.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And but even me trying to do this and just even raising our girls and I saw a post that you guys had on about your goals, and you sat down with your kids, and that kicked my butt and inspired me. And I was like, I'm doing all of this, but I haven't translated it to my kids. So that day I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to scrap my agenda. And I sat the kids down and I said, hey, what are your goals for the year? And we went through it. And one of my oldest, one of her goals was leadership. She wants to develop her leadership, which made me smile. So yeah, I'm going through this book, and I was like, I wasn't actually expecting something like that from my 11-year-old, but she did pretty good. So we're working on that. So I don't know. Those are some of my thoughts.
Do you mind me asking what your husband had verbalized he wanted his legacy to be?
Yeah, he was so sick at that point. He went downhill so fast that he wasn't able to talk a whole lot by the time, like, the nurses said, you need to think about legacy. So he wasn't able to actually verbalize it. Yeah, I found I found in some of his, going through some of his stuff, because he was a pastor, I found a paragraph or whatever that he wrote on grief at Christmas. And so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it, and it's got like references all through it, scriptural, and I think I'm going to go and see if I can take it to a publisher and see if I can get it published and then hand it out at Christmas for people who are grieving. That's like one thing. But yeah, he had a heart. I know he had a heart and a passion, especially for pastors and leadership. He just very quietly went around and just loved pastors and strengthened them, because he knew that if he loved the leader well, then he could and inspire them. Then it would build the whole congregation, right? So it was like best, better, whatever. So if he loved other pastors well and built them up, then it yeah, I don't know, that was kind of like his heart. So
Well, thank you for sharing your own personal story, because I think what makes learning meaningful is hearing stories, because that's how it like becomes real, or helps us understand more of like a 3D picture of what it means, what it looks like. The reason why I was asking was because if your 11-year-old is saying something that she wants to focus on this year's leadership, I guess I was curious if that tied into your husband's legacy, which it sounds like it does, because he had a heart for loving leaders well, and so obviously leadership was important to him, and something has been planted in your daughter's heart about leadership and why it's important and significant. So I thought that was really profound when you were sharing. It was just some like a connection I've heard you say. And I liked the fact that you had mentioned that basically legacy includes others. It's like this focus of, which I feel like in American culture, it's easy to just, it's like me. But like a legacy and leadership and all that is like outward focus, being a giver. And I think a lot of people are just on the take. And so it takes special people to have the awareness of, how can I give? Anyone else want to pop their video on and share something from the chapter? Vanessa or Shannon or Crystal? I was going to ask Justin to share a story, because it kind of mirrors what it's talking about here at the beginning of this chapter. And it's talking about Mother Teresa and the legacy that she left. but do you want to share a little bit about your retreat that you went on?
Sure. Well, in November, and some of you might have heard this, I'm not sure, but in November, I went on a week-long retreat called Warrior Dad. It was the first of its kind. It was the first class that's ever gone through it. So really going in, I didn't know what it was going to be. It was all kind of secretive, but I thought, what the heck, we'll go for it and see what happens. So anyway, we went out there. It was really, really good. It was very, very uncomfortable. There was about 36 different difficult situations they put you in, and the basic idea is to break you down. Because especially with guys, we have a lot of times we have armor that we put on, and we don't want people to see what's on the inside of the armor. We don't want to be vulnerable, and I think maybe we all are a little bit that way. But so the idea was to break you down, and then really expose what your true priorities in life are and what your true passion is, and then be able to verbalize that and be able to visualize kind of what maybe is coming in the future. So one of the exercises that they had us do, and it was about legacy, is what they had a really weird packing list that we were supposed to bring. And some of the things in the packing list was a nice black suit, and then family pictures. So we were doing just a lot of different things, and they had us write out our obituary. And so I thought, well, this is kind of strange. I've never even thought about this. So we're writing out our obituaries after one afternoon. And then we went on to something else. And then before we went to supper, the guy who was leading it said, okay, after supper, I want you guys to get in your suits and bring your family pictures with you. So we did. And when we went back into the room, it was set up in, the room was set up as a funeral. And there was a casket in the front of the room. And then they had us put our pictures. The guy, his name's Carl. Carl took our pictures and put them on the wall and had us sit down. And there was like funeral music playing and all these things. And we just sat there thinking, I don't know what everybody else is thinking. I was thinking, he's going to have me get in that box. I know he's going to have me get in that box. So it was real somber, because no one knows what to expect. All these exercises were really stretched you, especially if you're from the Midwest and you're extremely conservative. There was a lot of things that stretched me, and this stretched me. But he said, okay, take your obituary and hand it to the guy to the right, and when I call your name, come up. And he opened the lid, and you had to crawl into the casket and shut the lid. Of course, the lid was like real creaky. I don't know if he designed it that way or what, but it was like, and then shut the thing, and then they read your obituary while you were in this casket. And I don't know about all the other guys. I've thought about things like this before, but it was a real eye-opening experience, and to where just some things I'd never thought about before, and one of the thoughts was, what kind of legacy are we leaving behind? What kind of legacy am I leaving? And, when we got done, the guy, Carl, got really angry at the class. He stormed out, but before he left, he's like, you guys there's no legacy at all. Like, none of you, he's like, Justin is the only one out of all 12 of you that even mentioned his family in his obituary. Like, the rest of you didn't even know, you didn't even mention your wife. And
what were theirs? Like, what they accomplished?
Yeah, I guess their own personal accomplishments. And then, so anyway, it was a real eye-opening experience. Kind of strange, but I don't expect Plexus to do anything like this at any of the events that they put on, but it was a real eye-opening experience and really caused you to think about legacy in light of what am I leaving behind? Because I know the day's coming. We don't know when. It's one of the strange things of life. We don't know those, but what are we going to leave behind? What are we going to be known for? Or what are we going to leave in others behind us? And I think even with Plexus, I've thought about legacy and not just like leave money behind to the kids. I mean, like when this season of Plexus, because Plexus is probably just a season. Everything's a season, right? So, I mean, I don't expect anything bad to happen to Plexus, but it will end at some point. And what will we leave behind? What will we be known for? Will we be known for a rank? Will we be known for our Christian testimony as we held on to a rank? Will be known as how we helped other people? What will our legacy be? Since this is a Plexus call, I guess the question is, what's our legacy when this season of Plexus is over? What are we going to leave behind? And I think it's important to do that because that changes the way you approach people. And it changes the way you speak to people and how you treat people. Early on, I saw a diamond way before Megan was a diamond at one of our first events we went to. And we spent a lot of the evening talking to this, was she a silver or not a silver yet? The Amish girl.
Oh.
I don't even know. And, just people wouldn't pay attention to her. And then I saw a diamond who's still a diamond today. I'm not going to mention her name, but I saw her treat somebody really bad because this lady's a diamond and the lady that was trying to talk to her was below her, so to speak. And I remember looking at Megan, this is before we had really any rank at all. And I remember telling her, I said, when we're at the top of this company, we'll never do that. We'll never do that. We'll make time for the silver Amish girl who's not even on our team. We'll make time for people. And so I think, so we can leave a legacy even with Plexus. It doesn't have to be when we leave it doesn't have to mean when we leave the earth. It could mean when we leave the company. It could mean when we leave the house. It could mean, when we leave work for the week. Legacy can be a lot of different things. And so what will we be known for? For being a Plexus ambassador, what are we going to be known for? I think it's a very important question that we should all really consider,
Yeah. It says someday people will summarize your life in a single sentence. And so I'm going to give you all homework.
Wow.
For those of you that are on this call. I want you to, let's see, where should we put it? Well, you know what? I'm just gonna make a list of the people that are on this call. You guys showed up. Thank you for that. And I'm just gonna make a chat thread with us, and everyone can put theirs in the chat thread.
What we want that sentence to be?
Yeah, someday
Ooh.
someday people
will
summarize your life in a single sentence. What is that sentence? And this is something that was really promoted at the retreat that I just got back from last night. I went to Brooke Hemingway's retreat out in California, and it goes back to asking yourself the hard questions and like taking a step back. I mean, sometimes we just get in the do mode, like, okay, I just need to, contact my 5 people every day, and I need to make sure I'm saying the right thing, and I need to do my follow-ups, and that's all good. Like, those are the things that are going to move the needle forward in your business. But it's important to take a step back and say, okay, why am I here? I'm here for a reason. How many of you believe you're here for a reason? For whatever reason, God, in my opinion, God has allowed all of us to have been introduced to products that helped our health, changed our life, and been introduced to the opportunity, which is changing your financial future, right? And so we have to know that we're here for a reason. Like, there is a divine purpose behind this. And this is something that was really, really heavily talked about at this retreat, is there is the divine involved in even in Plexus. Like it is an earthly thing. It's a business. it's products, right? But we can be in the hot seat, right? To learn the lessons that God wants to teach us, to help us in our personal growth, to help us in our emotional maturity, to help us in our leadership skills, because all of those things affect every area of life. It's not like your life is like one little box, right? You're wearing a lot of hats, probably. Your dad, mom, wife, husband, you're, I'm sure, ministering to people everywhere you go, even if you're not in like specific full-time ministry, you're impacting people, right? You have your work life, you have your friend life, you have your mom, your daughter, friend, sister, right? And so those areas of your life are impacted by the things that you learn. And this business can be the catalyst like nothing else, right? I've said for years that motherhood has been the hot seat for me to learn the lessons that God wants to teach me that I don't think I can learn anywhere else. I feel the exact same thing about Plexus and what this opportunity has created in my soul and my spirit, because if you want to impact people's lives, you have to learn how to relate to people, and all of those things are shaping you in a good way, right? And nothing is a failure if we learn, right? And a couple of things that I jotted down here is, well, I already said everyone's a leader. One thing that I will say really quickly, verbalizing what your legacy is going to be, writing it down. There is a lot of science to prove that writing things down is so super effective. And so in what you verbalize, you can manifest. Okay. I said it in here. A lot of people just kind of like, where was that? Oh, most people simply accept their lives. They don't actually lead them. I believe that people need to be proactive about how they live, and that's especially true for leaders. And so we all, not just you, we all need clarity. Like, why are you here? Have you thought about that? Why are you doing Plexus? I know we talk about our why, but I often think that it's really shallow. Like, it's not deep enough to impact soul and heart and spirit and like thinking legacy. Like, that's thinking really big picture. That means when someone tells you no, you're not going to be like, oh my word, and you go cry in your bed for 3 hours, right? Because you have a strong reason, and you know why you're here. You know why you're doing this. So you're here for a reason. Another thing I'll just say really quick that struck me is we have to learn to lead ourselves first. Sometimes people are so like, oh, my team. They don't have a team yet. So what you have to do is learn to lead yourself first. Learn the skill set. I know we talk about the 90-day rule, being consistent for 90 days. Like, how many of us have actually been consistent for 90 days? A lot of times what happens is life gets in the way. We're like in and out. And we're not just every day, just simply consistent. Because by day 45, that's halfway in, you'll start to see the needle move forward. And all of that is up until that point is just getting muscle memory, okay? Learning how to reach out, learning how to follow up, learning how to stay consistent, learning how to initiate conversations, learning how to interact with people, especially on social media. Like, it's a little bit of a different medium than just like face-to-face. And if you do lots of face-to-face, that's awesome too. But learning that muscle memory and learning to lead yourself first. And I listened to Anthony Trucks. If you haven't followed him on Instagram, you can go look him up. He's a Black guy that is an overcomer. He was raised in an all-white family, adopted, was abused as a little tiny child. He said his main goal, his first, 3 or 5 years of life was to just not get beat. He was put in a pen with a chicken, and basically if he caught the chicken, he'd be able to eat supper or something crazy, just like crazy, insane stuff like he was subjected to as a little tiny kid. And then he was raised in an all-white family. So he's like, talk about being a fish out of water. He's like, anyways, he was a really funny guy, but was talking about consistency. He's like, anything you want in life, you have to be consistent. You want well-trained kids, be consistent in training them. You want to educate yourself, be consistent with that. You want a hot body, be consistent to work out. Like, it boils down to like the bare bones stuff we all know to do. Like we were talking earlier, it's not lack of knowledge.
Not usually.
Not usually, right? It's
Yeah, usually the trouble isn't lack of knowledge. Usually the trouble is lack of doing what we already know to do.
mhm.
And if we did those things, maybe we need more knowledge. But the problem is we're not consistent doing the things we already know we're supposed to do.
Mhm.
You know, I don't think there's any knowledge that needs to be extended really to a lot of people on how to work a Plexus business. I think everybody pretty well knows how to do it. It's really, I mean, you make a list, you talk to people, you follow up with people. You make a list, you talk to people, you follow up with people.
And send, share, invite.
So that's not, but if you really look at, I think if we look at how people are really doing with their Plexus business, and you would say, it would come down to, are you being consistent doing that? Well, no. Well, then
That's where you have to start.
then a retreat may not help, or a more knowledge may not help, or a sales course may not be a good investment. We're just, a lot of times we're not consistent with the simple things we already know to do, and it's the simple things that cause us to win in life. It's the simple things that cause us to win in exercise, our money, our relationships, our business. It's the simple things done over, and it's the simple things done consistently over time that cause people to win.
Mhm.
And you know, Plexus is no different. It's the same. It's the same formula. You know, the wealthiest people on the planet have really simple investment strategies. Now, why do they get wealthier? Because they do them over and over and over again. They're actually really boring,
Mhm.
nothing exciting, but they work
Mhm.
and they do it over and over and over and over. And I think that that's important. I think that's an important formula. They're usually really boring. Reach outs are boring. Follow ups are boring. Getting told no is, I mean, that's not boring. That's always interesting. But it's just that have to do it over and over and over again. And I think that that's usually the problem is that we're not consistent.
Mhm.
If people were really honest with themselves, it would be probably a lack of consistency.
Mhm. Well, learning to lead ourselves first is like the basement level of legacy, right? Because eventually we're going to be teaching people what we did or what we're doing, right, to create that success. You know, you go silver, you teach your people how to go silver. Then you go super silver. You teach your people how to go super silver. You teach, right? And so you develop yourself, and then you develop other people, and you teach them, you show them the ropes, right? And I think it's important to know you're not missing anything. I think a lot of times this work isn't sexy enough. Like it really isn't earth-shatteringly, amazingly, whoa, like every day you're like dance party. I mean, you can if you want, but
And you should.
yeah,
You should celebrate.
you
But
should. You should raise your energy level and in the things that you're doing, because studies show that when you do something painful, doing something that's pleasurable at the same time, like reroutes those crazy feelings and memory, you know, this muscle memory, so that it becomes more of a pleasure to you instead of something that's painful you want to avoid, right? So you can go eat that little piece of chocolate while you do your reach outs, or turn on some fun dancing music, but you're not missing anything. And sometimes people think, and I felt this way too, is like, what am I missing? What am I not doing? And so I think it's important to say, you know what, if you're doing the system, send, share, invite, follow up, help people get started, talk to them about sharing, helping them know how to make a post and make their list, like that is the system. Right?
Mhm.
But just doing that system and trusting in yourself. Like I know we're trusting God, right? We ask God for wisdom and things like that, but in the sense of don't doubt that you can't do it, because I believe you have what it takes in you. All of you are successful outside of Plexus in something, right? And so it's like you're learning the skill set, you're learning what to say. So I'm not saying you should never like ask for coaching or go listen to videos on how to up your ante, right? But in the sense of trust your intuition. Like you all have some intuition, and it'll get louder and stronger as you continue to build your confidence in this. You're not missing anything. You just a lot of times have to listen to your still small voice, like, how should I respond back to this person? You know, you have a mind, a creative mind, to know how to encourage people and influence people. Okay, so I really liked on page 226. I have an old book though, so it might not be the same as yours, but he's talking about living the legacy you want to leave. I loved where he said, I try to leave a legacy by building bridges, relating to people on a heart-to-heart level, and seeking to give more than I receive. And one thing that Brooke Hemingway said this weekend that really just like struck me, she said, give until it hurts. It's like, she's like, giving should hurt a little bit. Like, you want to buy that gift for someone, or you want to give of your time or whatever. She's like, it should hurt us a little bit, but that's the crux of giving. And what I really appreciate about her is like, she did this retreat. Like, she doesn't have a formula or someone telling her how to do that, right? She just had a desire to invest in people. And the fact that she was willing to jump off the cliff and figure the parachute on the way down, right? And in the fact like that, who she is came out of that retreat because she's such a giver. Like, she's so full of love and wanting to help other people get the tools that they need to help them succeed, that it just like exudes out of her. And so I really thought this last sentence was really profound. It says, if you want to create a legacy, you need to live it first, which I agree. And then it says, you must become what you desire to see in others.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One of the notes I wrote down is, what we do consistently will be our legacy. So that should scare probably all of us to death a little bit, because what we do consistency is who we are.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Thanks.
you know, my father-in-law has told me I've known him for, I don't know now, 16, 17 years. But one of the things he's consistently told me and said throughout the years is, you are what you do, and the rest is just religious talk. And so I think when you're talking of legacy, it depends on what definition of legacy you have also. Some things, if you look at legacy, it's about leaving property or money. I guess we're talking more about impact and what you're leaving in people, how you've invested in people, I guess, is the way we're approaching legacy tonight. But but you know, we are what we do. I mean, we may not like that, but when we really start to look at that reality, I know some of the most profound moments in my life is when I really looked at myself and said, okay, this is what I'm doing. This is who I am. And sometimes that hurt. I didn't want it, because that's not who I wanted to be. But I had to come to the realization that I'm here because this is who I am. And that sparked a lot of change. But I think that, as that note that I wrote down, I think it's key. What we do consistently will be our legacy. That's what we're going to be known for. Because people see what we do. We think people aren't paying attention, but they see what we do. But so it comes down to consistency and being the legacy we want to leave, because our legacy is attached to who we are as people, not necessarily what we do, but who we are, right?
Mm-hmm. And I think on page 226 also, it talks about achievement, success, significance, and legacy. And so I'm just relating this to Plexus right now because we're talking about business. But some people, I think, honestly, I think that this is like a level. Like, these are like levels, and the surface level is achievement. And there's nothing wrong with wanting achievement. Like, there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. So achievement comes when you do big things by yourself. So that's like getting that first rank, or maybe standing on stage and being recognized as an Emerald Ambassador. Maybe that is like the pinnacle of what you want in your business, and that's totally fine. But I would just challenge you to dig deeper as to why and what that means to your family and to other people, because achievement is kind of like the first surface level, really. Because number two, in my opinion, success comes when they empower followers to do big things for them. significance comes when they develop leaders to do great things with them. And then legacy. So I think this is like kind of flopped. Basement level is achievement. Success is next. Significance. And then the highest pinnacle, maybe it should be like a pyramid, I don't know. The highest point of that little chart is legacy, because that comes when they put leaders in positions to do great things without them. And honestly, as a good leader, a couple things when I think about good leaders, they ask good questions and they empower others to be successful. And practically, sometimes that looks like not giving people the answers all the time. I mean, some of us have to learn the hard way of like, you know what? You don't have to go to YouTube and go search out the video for them and send it to them. That's not empowering them to go find their own answers, right? Or, oh, do you have an article or a testimony on someone with migraines? And then you go search on like open Facebook and type in plexus migraines, be like, okay, and then you're tagging them. I mean, maybe there's some room for that, but we need to be empowering others to go find their own answers.
Right.
That's how we were treated.
Yeah.
I raised this up.
So Rob Heffley was my go-to guy, when I started, not as much anymore. Now he's just a friend, but when I first started, I'd go to him and expect him to give me all the answers, and he didn't give me any answers. He'd just say stuff like, well, it's in your back office. And I'm like, well, what a jerk. And I'd tell him that too. I'm not talking behind his back. I'd tell him that to his face today. We have a good relationship. He's a good friend. But what he was doing was he was causing me, he was lifting my lid, even though I didn't like it. And give me the answer. But what he was doing is he was putting me in position to really be able to help other people, because now I can show them where it's at. But he was pushing me, to the next level. And he did that consistently. He wouldn't give me any answers. He'd just say, well, it's in the back office. I'm like, well, just tell me. He's like, well, it's right there in back office. So, but it was good because he really was being a good leader. He was causing me to dig deep and to go find it. So it was good.
I really liked on page 227 where they talk about taking the long view. And this is something that Brooke had shared over the weekend. She gave the example that she had someone come to her saying that she wanted some coaching from her. But then that person verbalized, they're like, well, I'm going to try this for a year or something. And Brooke's like, she's like, I'm in this for the long haul, like infinity and beyond. Like, this is my career path. I am not quitting. This is like until I retire. When I'm old, this is what I'm doing. And she said, I'm not the right coach for you. If you're just wanting to do this and try it out for a year and see how you do, she's like, I'm not the right coach for you. But I thought that was really, really great that she verbalized. This is not just like a short-term thing. I hope you guys all have the big picture. Like, this can be your dream maker for you, for your family. I was just sitting with a girl at supper the other night at this VIP dinner, and she's an Emerald in Plexus, and she's actually under Jen Hawkins' mom. Jen Hawkins is one of the double diamonds in Plexus, and her mom actually is so sweet. She's raised 10 kids. I don't know how old she is, probably close to 70, I would guess. And I remember her really like encouraging me in my first Hawaii trip. I had an infant, like newborn baby with me, and she was just encouraging me like motherhood and children and things like that. And so this girl I sat with is an Emerald ambassador under Jen Hawkins' mom. And that girl told me that her mom has been in Mary Kay for 40 years. She's been at the top of Mary Kay. She's like, she's done it well with integrity, all those things. I'm like, 40 years? That's crazy. Like how fun when we'll be able to say like, we've been in Plexus for 40 years.
I'll be like the 84-year-old ambassador, the grandpa of the group, which I would think would be awesome because I think we need older people teaching the younger people. I'd be thrilled to be the oldest Texas ambassador out there. I think it'd be awesome.
So she said that growing up, her dream was to be a network marketer. that was her dream because she wanted to be just like her mom. And so she was in Mary Kay, I believe, but then she said, but Mary Kay didn't take all of my health issues away. And so she joined Plexus, and here she is, right? Just impacting a lot of people. She's retired her husband, and it's been a big blessing to their family. But okay, I wanted to take a few minutes and go through an exercise. So do you guys all have some paper? Hopefully a pen and paper close by. And I wanted to work through an exercise that we did this weekend. And I was actually curious if there's someone willing for me to ask the questions too. Is someone willing?
Oh, sure, go ahead.
Okay, Jill, very good. Okay.
Perfect.
So there's no wrong answers. I shouldn't say there's no right answers. There's no wrong answer to this. But it's called a 7 levels deep exercise. And the point behind this, it's used to determine what really drives you to accomplish anything in life. And this was kind of messy. Like the girl that spoke had someone come up on stage and they did it together. Like they worked through the exercise together. So they modeled it, and then everyone worked on it with a partner. And it was really interesting because sometimes the answers aren't as easy as you think they're going to be, right? And so when I was talking about like surface level why, and he talked about this on the apply section, he's asking like, what do you want your legacy to be? Take some time to consider the big picture concerning why you lead. And he was talking about that's a process. You know, it's not like you can like just boom, always know the answers and spit them out, whatever. I think it's a process of like learning to lead with clarity, learning to work your business from a sense of purpose. And he talks about that. The idea of legacy is closely related to a person's sense of purpose in life. Why are you here? And another thing that was asked this weekend is, what do you want? You know, have you thought through that? What do you want? Okay, so here's a level 1 question, Jill. All right, so what is important to you about we'll say leaving a legacy?
To me, setting a good example for my son, because I'm a single mom. So, you know, I mean, I feel like not having a male figure around, I kind of feel like at times I'm both. So I feel like that, you know, being a good role model and doing the right things. Maybe you don't always do the right things, but you have a good heart and you try to do the right things.
Mm-hmm. Well, my hat goes off.
I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of single moms, by the way. I was raised by one, and she was awesome. She's still awesome. I talked to her today, but so you have the hardest job. You and Esther both have the hardest job on the planet. So keep your head up and keep moving forward, because I really love single moms.
Okay,
thank you.
So I love that answer. So level 2 is, why is that important to you that you, what did you say? What was your short answer? That you provide a legacy for your son?
Yeah, to leave a positive role model, be a positive influence.
Okay. Why is it important for you to be a positive influence to him?
I guess, I mean, so he will grow up to be someone who can pass that on. I mean, you know, I feel like we start doing that, and hopefully he'll pass that on to his kids and his spouse, and it'll go from there.
Mm-hmm. Why is it important to you that he passes it on?
So he can leave a good legacy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It continues to pass it on from me to him to, you know. I mean, when we're young, we don't think about things like that. You know, what our parents passed on to us and the characteristics and things they gave us. But, you know, when you get a little older, you hope that you can pass some of those things on to your kids too.
Well, and I'll just say as a side note, I don't think a lot of people probably even think these thoughts, honestly. I just want to say I'm proud of everyone that's on this call, because you're the top 5% of people in the world that even focus on personal growth and would think through hard questions like this.
I'll say just one thing real quick. I want to, because you guys probably don't watch boxing or like brutal sports like the UFC where people just pummel each other in a cage. I personally like it. Maybe it's Army guy type stuff, but one thing I found interesting, a guy that fought the other night who's one of the best in the world, he got to the top of his game, made some bad decisions, lost focus, and then came back and won a fight the other night. And then at the end of the fight, he had Tony Robbins in the ring with him. Now, I'm not necessarily a huge Tony Robbins fan. Some people love him. I have friends that just think he's the best ever. He's not my guy. But the important thing is that you could see how important personal growth was for this fighter to even have Tony Robbins in the ring with him, embracing him after. You could tell there was a relationship there. So I applaud you guys for just being on this call. Some of you have been on the calls this whole book series consistently, and when we do that, we put ourselves in position to grow. You're putting yourselves in positions to learn. So I'm really proud of all you guys for being on this call tonight.
Mm-hmm. So question number 6 is, why is it important to you? What is your son's name?
Jack and Jill.
Okay. Why is it important to you that Jack passes on legacy?
Shoot.
It makes you think, doesn't it? Like you're thinking,
Yeah.
you're like,
I don't know. I guess significance.
mm-hmm.
And hopefully, I guess that's kind of a big part of my why altogether, is to feel significant enough and to feel like we contribute to society, to our families, to our communities, to churches, all the way around. I feel like a lot of things are self-focused, and I feel like that passes. If we can pass on some of our characteristics, then that takes maybe the focus off of ourselves some.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what I was hearing you say was, you said contribution to people and society. And so I'll just ask you the last question before I maybe chime in anything else. So why is it important to you that you guys leave a legacy of significance and contribution to people? Because what I'm hearing you say basically is like, you're not focusing here, you're focusing here, like all of the people, right?
Yes. I think when we focus more on other people, we tend to make more right decisions for where we want to be. Because if we focus just on us, we're making kind of selfless decisions when we make them. Mm-hmm. And if we're focusing outward, we can kind of become part of what we're trying to accomplish, and hopefully try to make the right decisions on whatever we do,
mm-hmm.
however we contribute.
So do you think that ties into purpose and fulfilling potential?
Yes. Yeah.
It was interesting. Go ahead. Keep.
No, I guess looking at, what our purpose is and what we try to do, I guess I've worked with technology, and while that's been rewarding for me and it's been challenging, it just kind of left me a little short on significance and fulfillment sometimes. Working with machines isn't the same as working with people and leaving a mark. I've spent a lot of hours working with machines.
mm-hmm.
So, I just feel like my son wants nothing to do with that side of my life. So that's kind of a good thing. He said, anything but IT, Mom. So, but just, I want to be able to give. I guess when I met you guys, you all talked about it's not all about what you're going to do for yourself. It's how you can give to your missions and things like that, that you want to do. And I think that's real inspiring. And I see that more as my focus, is being able to help others with this.
So do you have any particular dream of giving in any particular specific way? Have you
I've already kind of started a little bit.
Awesome.
An active women's health initiative. It's not a missionary type thing, but
Okay.
growing up, I had some very powerful coaches in my life in sports and different things. And some of my classmates and I had decided that, it would be great for us to find a way to honor one of our middle school coaches who passed. And so one of my son's doctors was doing this active women's healthcare initiative. So I just kind of jumped on and started doing some contributing to that and helping the outreach program with that. And so that's kind of been a little bit of a passion of mine. So that just kind of gave me to feel like, there's nothing else probably that I could have done that I didn't feel good about. That was something doing for others and getting something off the ground, because there's a lot of young kids who, with all the technology devices today, that's all they do is do things like that, and they're not active. So that's just kind of something that hit with my career a little bit, but then also with what some of my classmates and I had talked about doing something for. So I don't know.
Also, I was going to say something there for a minute when you said it's not missions type stuff, but I want to encourage you, especially since I heard you say it, but everybody, never neglect helping somebody with their physical needs. Jesus's ministry began by helping people's physical needs, not spiritual needs. He fed people. He made wine. He healed physical problems. So I love what you're doing. I think that's where we meet people, is on the physical level. So that's awesome. That's
I
encouraging.
can't hear you real well. So.
Oh, I think there's weird connection problems. Oops.
Yeah, connection. I think my son may be playing Xbox, so.
Oh, maybe that's why.
Maybe some of my bandwidth.
Well, one thing that I really gleaned from the retreat that I was at was we have to give life to the dreams that we have, and any sort of like money goal or even rank goal or whatever has to be tied to a greater impact, because otherwise it's surface. It's not enough to get you up in the morning. It's not, but when you know that, like, when I hit gold rank and I make that bonus and I'm able to give whatever, maybe you have a percentage or what that means to you, because that means, some kids in that program are going to be helped further or whatever, like it's tied to someone else or something else, And so I really appreciated how much of a focus and an emphasis was on that, like, larger impact and giving life to those dreams and having like a deep belly, like, reason why we're doing what we're doing.
Yeah, I think that's another thing I would say, because it's kind of cliche in business and entrepreneurship and some of these things where, what's your why, define your why, whatever. But I think that's halfway true, but I think you also have to identify the who behind the why, because let's say, just kind of the theme of what we're talking about, when what we're doing is attached to other people, it just gives you a little bit more oomph. We're at our best when we're helping other people. So I think even with our why has to be attached to a who. So if it's just like, I want to be rich and famous, well, okay, great, but why? Who is that going to impact? I mean, or it's, I want to make $1,000. Okay, that's a good why, but who will that impact? Well, I want to make $1,000 so I can buy my kids some shoes. Or we have a lot of kids, okay? So maybe that seems like a lot of money, but we have a lot of kids. So, or whatever, but the money or the rank or whatever is attached to a who. It's good. It goes further than just hitting a dollar amount necessarily. It just gives you a little bit more oomph when it's tied to somebody, or it's tied to an organization or somebody you can help with it. It's just something I've learned with setting goals, and a why is it's always best when it's attached to a who. And even my personal goal of going diamond, it's not, yeah, it's a personal goal, yeah, but it's one of the main reasons is because of who that is going to impact and how. So it's attached to other people, and I think that our why needs to be attached to other people. At least at some point it does, because it just gets you up in the morning when you know that you're impacting other people, and that really is legacy, is impact, right? So it needs to be attached to a who.
I was trying to find the notes from one of the guys that spoke. He was, oh, here he is. What was his name? Well, he was a Energizer bunny. He has 6 kids. He had run, I think, an Ironman, and he gave personal illustrations from a mountain biking expedition he did with these guys that are like, oh man, yeah, you can totally do it. You have a mountain bike. All right, come with us. And it was like mountain biking down a mountain. And he said he like almost died. But anyways, he was talking about just success in general and how you treat people. And he said, and I think this goes right along with what we're talking about, because we're talking about impact and about people and about loving people, adding value, like all of those things. And he was just talking about, like, you don't treat the Uber driver different than you treat the CEO. And he gave a personal example of when he and a bunch of his business partners or whatever were going up to the 15th floor. They had flown in from Utah or whatever. And one of the guys that was with him, this lady got on the elevator with them. She had like a bunch of stuff in her arms and like accidentally bonked into one of the guys. And he's like, what are you doing? Watch out where you're going. And was like really, really rude to her. So they got up to the 15th floor to go make this huge business deal. And anyways, they were introduced to this guy they're going to do the business deal with. He's like, hey guys, thanks for coming up. I appreciate that you flew in and all that, but hey, deal's off. And he's like, thanks for coming out, And what happened is that lady with the big load in her arms that the guy was rude to was that man's wife. And so use that illustration to prove the point that you don't treat people any differently. And I think it's a hallmark, honestly, of successful people. And he said, or someone said, we're all in the people business. Like, it doesn't matter what you sell, what you do. Like, we're in relationship with people. And to be truly successful, like, like when you're around someone, you feel that because they have love exuding out of them, right? And they're others focused. And I just really appreciated, he was talking about the little things mean everything. And he said it's in the details that make a few people rich. And just talking about adding value to people. And he actually took some examples from the crowd, like of what do you do to add value to people? And the girl I was sitting next to that I roomed with was just saying, hey, every day on social media, when it's people's birthdays, she said, I send them a private message and tell them I'm praying for them that day. And, just to like add value to people. And it's some other people said, hey, when someone new joins me, I send them a little journal and thank them for, joining my team and whatever. And he's like, all right, I have a next level step for you. He said, send it to people before they actually join your team and just thank them for, being willing and open to listen to what you have to say. And he was talking about like being a giver, like investing and just showing up for people. And he's like, but he basically said those small investments will end up paying off big time. But I appreciated like his example and his challenge to just be a giver. Mm-hmm. So anyways, okay, it's 9:02. So I will let y'all go. We will let y'all go. Thank you for being on tonight. I'm going to make a little chat thread and we'll put our homework in there. And I'm just going to end by saying, has any of you read the book, The Go-Giver? No? Okay. No. Put that on your reading list for this year. That was a book that was recommended by Brooke. And she said it's excellent. It's about being a giver. So I just wanted to pass that along. It's on my book list too. So, all right, we'll get this up. Oh, Shannon shared, a legacy of helping my kids learn to live healthier lives is one of the things that's important to me. My great grandma lived to be 104, Her sons only lived to be 86 and 83. My dad only lived to be 65. I'm 46 and don't want our family members living 20 years shorter every generation. That's great, Shannon. We need to be healthy to make positive kingdom impacts for a longer period of time. Oh, I totally agree with you. I think Plexus is like such a godsend because it helps get moms off their couches so that they can impact
and dads. Let's not be
sorry.
Yeah.
Or keep them from drinking energy drinks and pots of coffee because they legit sometimes have to just go to work. But because it helps us be healthier, and like when we're healthier physically, we can affect more people. It's so true. Okay. Alrighty. Thanks for being on, y'all. Have a great week.
Hey,
thanks for being on the call and for being consistent to show up. All right. See y'all.